Hello, welcome back to the tiny house build project. In this episode, we're going to be getting the insulation in the walls as well as the blocks built up internally. So the internal wall, this is a mix of day 13 and day 14. You'll notice there's an overlap here because they were building on the internal wall at the same time as the external wall. So overall, we're coming at a process now where things are moving along. You'll notice that this is a Cellutex walls. Originally, they had some other stuff they wanted to put in the back wall, which is acceptable, but wanted better thermal values. This is the stuff they were gonna put in. It's like this yellow super wall cavity insulation. It's like a super fiberglass type thing, but I preferred this. We still had that bag left over, so we do make use of that. I'll show you in a later episode what we end up doing with that yellow bag that they brought. So here they got Cellutex and they're pushing this up against the wall, and this is going to be the main insulation of the back walls. So the big blocks is about what, something like 4 foot, no, yeah, 4 foot, yeah, 4 foot by 8 foot panels, like a plywood type size, and they use three of these, well, six in total on the back wall alone, and these are individual big blocks. They're 3 inches thickness, so they're going to supply good thermal values because these are better rated in terms of keeping in the heat than the super the yellow bag stuff, the fiberglass stuff. So ideally this will be a little bit nicer for the insulation of this tiny house, because obviously we want to keep it as warm as possible and cool, so hopefully either way around, summer or winter. Overall, we've got a nice little process going on here now. We're at a good, I'll say, halfway point, because day 13 is kind of halfway, I'm assuming, in my mind, because next is the roof and the tiles and then the skimming and the internal bits, so we're kind of halfway there. Once the roof is on, we're going to be at a better position. You'll see the thermolite blocks came as well for the delivery of these, and we've got these. They're not that heavy, they're 2 foot wide, so they're nice big blocks. They're light, they're not that heavy, but they provide good, again, thermalite, so thermal values. So in the UK, they basically build a double wall and it gets insulated, so it's good for noise, and the internal wall is separate from the external wall and you have a gap in the middle, so that helps in a number of ways. So overall, the builders have been getting along with this. They've got these slots as well, which are slotting in on the side of the window and the door, and they are obviously being held together in like a block situation. But there's a metal tie that we talked about in early episodes that holds the external and internal wall, which are these, and these slide, the thermal blocks slide in between those, so they're held in place, and as each brick gets on, it gets cemented in, so the thermal ties hold both walls and the insulation in place. They're using those metal ties on the wall as well to tie in the old wall, the old building, into this new existing wall. So overall, it seems to be going well. There's a number of little observations that I will make a separate video on about the builders, and I mentioned this before, every builder will have their thing. So it's always good to keep an eye out, and as long as they're willing to take, like, feedback, and you can say, oh, I don't quite like this, can you change this, can we readjust this, or I don't mind paying extra if it costs extra, because originally we discussed having insulation put in, but maybe I should have specified to say I want Cellutex everywhere, because apparently you can have the fiberglass stuff, and looking online, even in the architect's plans, it says fiberglass or similar, so it's like kind of down to your choice and preference. So obviously this costs more money, so if they're budgeted for fiberglass and you end up asking for Cellutex, you're going to pay the difference, and they'll fit it happily, even though there's a bit more fitting involved in this, because it's a bit more cumbersome. It's like solid pieces, whereas the fiberglass kind of is like a fabric type thing, and it just molds and kind of goes into contours, into shape. So you'll see this is a time lapse here. This is 5 times the normal speed of the time lapse. So this is a 2 days worth of building. They got the single block wall up in about a day. It's probably worth discussing this as well. So bricks take longer to put up. If they had made this internal and external wall out of blocks, that would have probably been like another way of doing this and made it a bit easier, quicker. So if you're thinking about getting something built quickly, maybe consider just having it made out of blocks, because obviously one block is the same as like maybe 6 bricks, because it's double the height and the width. So overall, there's little things that you can think about, but if you don't, it would probably be cheaper as well. So the blocks are maybe half the price of what bricks would have cost. So just on the back wall alone, the bricks, guess how many bricks were used on that back wall alone? Drop it in the comments, I'll let you know if you're right. That's just the red bricks and the blue bricks, the tall wall in the back, like behind where he's just putting the blocks now, that brick wall. I was quite surprised until I counted them and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So you'll see now they've done the bottom one. Here's the second height of the Cellutex. So this will be within the room layer. So the room will be below here. So you're looking at about 8.5, 9 feet, and the ceiling will be on the internal side. And they mentioned that they don't need to insulate above that because it'll be like a little mini loft area, which will be where the beams and the roof truss and the tiles go on top of that. So there's little things like that that would be something you can think about to see what you end up doing. I have got some plans for the loft area depending on how much usable space we get. So stay tuned and I'll provide details about that. Again, in the description and in the pinned comment, I will put a link to the resources, like a free resources. All that basically means is I've made a blog article breaking down all the regular things that building an extension involves in the UK. Architects, builders, regulations, can you do it yourself, how much does it cost, what do you need to think about, what should you ask the builders, should you have a contract, all these questions that like kind of flew around my head. I've put them in one place for you, so if you need to look at that, it's free. So it's a website you can go to and just to post with the links. What I will probably do is each individual video I'll break down as well, so you can see that. So overall, let's have a quick look at what's here. So we've got a couple of bags of sand left, 1.5 big ton bags of sand still left, and a screed. Screed is going to go on the floor. So you'll see here they're making light work of this. So going around blocking up with the big blocks. So you'll see here they're making light work of this, going around blocking up with the big blocks, and a similar process to how they do the bricks. They put like a plumb line and then they make the wall around. So it was better because it started looking a bit more bigger again. The light hits in here and the white blocks kind of give you a better view of it. So overall we're getting at a process now where the tiny house is coming along. I recalculated to see how much space I'm actually going to get. And there is a sponsored video coming up at some point. There's been some discussion, so stay tuned for that. I won't spoil it. It's Easter coming soon, so it's relating to Easter. But actually, wait a minute. When will this episode come out? Because you may not see it in time. Today is the 6th of February 2024. And this day was 3 days ago, 2 days ago. So again, what happens is normally I'll film this on the day, and a day or two later, well, the same day I'll edit it and it'll be ready, but I schedule it for 2 days time, so you probably see a little bit later. But yeah, you still should see that. You'll see how that comes along. So yeah, so we're internally looking at about 20 foot long and 8 foot wide. So it's a long, narrow extension, so it may feel a little bit like a corridor, but it's 8 foot corridor, so that's a big corridor. So we'll see how it progresses and what we end up doing with it. But already there is plans to take 4 foot of that and make the 4 foot into like a bathroom type area. So a nice wide bathroom, so it doesn't look like a storeroom. So it'll be left with something like 16 feet for a room, and that'll be separated into 2 sections, maybe like a sitting area and like a studio type situation. Think of it like a sofa seating area and maybe like a kitchenette area when I say kitchen, I'm talking more like a worktop with maybe a microwave and a kettle or something, just for like heating food, not full on like, you know, Gordon Ramsay style chef cooker and stuff like that. The 6 stove hob, none of that business, just a lightweight option. Still thinking about the final use on this, but we'll see how it progresses, because overall there is quite a lot of space on that situation, so we'll see how that works out for you. The blocks, they're getting through the blocks quite regularly now, so they're getting a regular batching with the wheelbarrow and slowly putting the blocks on into the extension. The beams have arrived as well, so I'll show you an episode where they had beams come in, which they're using for their scaffolding type situation. When I say beams, what I mean by that is the roof joists. So because they are these platforms, they were using these as like a scaffold makeshift thing so they can get higher up on the walls. So overall we've got 11 beams they bought first because they were using them to help them here, and then they ordered a further 14 blocks as well. 14 beams, and on this day they stayed a little bit later. They stayed a bit like an hour extra, where they started after sunset, so you'll see it slowly getting darker and darker. So once they start getting, you know, on with it, and if it's a nice day, they will continue working until they finish like the bit they're doing. So in terms of building, that works out okay, but I did notice on a couple of days afterwards they were left a bit earlier, so they kind of make up their time, don't they? So if you're gonna do an hour extra overtime, then they're gonna make up for that on other days leaving early. And even today they left an hour early because it started raining. So today is the 6th of Feb, and this is the day when it's really windy. So this is the next day now. They came in, they finished off the little blocking, and the main thing with this is you'll see in that upper wall, he's still finishing off the upper wall. I think there's a limit of how many bricks you can put on a wall before you need to let it dry and then build the following day, because I noticed he will build like one side wall, he'll get up to about 11 bricks high maybe, or 10 bricks, and then he'll do the opposite side, and then he'll leave them to dry, and then the next day he'll do them again. So I'm assuming there's like some kind of a thought process behind like how heavy the wall becomes, and if it's dry then it's fine, but it takes some time to dry. So he finished off the back end. Like, I remember the back wall is 4 meters high because we have a pitched roof, so that's why there was a little bit of like another day worth of jiggery pokery, I'm gonna call it, because it's just like finishing stuff off. Because looking at it, it's like everything's fine, but you'll notice, yeah, this needed, you know, this wall needed going higher as well. So all these little things are things that will take time, and the main bits of work goes on very straightforward. But now he also had to make platforms for the ceiling joists, so that's something that will take a little bit of time as well. Be sure to stay tuned. On the next episode, they will be putting down the face plate for the roof. Well, I say roof, Yeah, roof and ceiling. So you'll see more details about that in the next episode coming up, and the beams start going in for the ceiling. A bit overkill in terms of the size of the beam, but that's what the architect wanted. So make sure, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel so you can see future progressions of this tiny house build. Again, in the pinned comment and the description, you'll see resources, a link to the blog article breaking down the costs and more details about makes, if you're getting this done for yourself and you're thinking about making a small extension, what you need to think about. And you'll see on screen the next episode. I'll see you on that.